Today I'm going to quickly chat about or give you 5 tips for running a contracting business, as a one-man band. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max, I'm your host. I'm the CEO at Smith & Sons here in Canada. And welcome to you if you're in YouTube land. Thanks for joining us. Look, as usual, like and subscribe, all that kind of wonderful stuff. If you would like to make contact with me and reach out, got a question or two, you can leave comments in. You can leave that in the comments below, or you can send me an email, max@businessforbuilders.ca, and I will do my best to get back to you as usual. I've got a couple to respond to, but probably get to those today. Look, what we want to do is always bring some value that you can grab a hold of and implement straight away. Recently or lately, I've been thinking about, the battle that we wage in this business of construction really is a mental approach, because there's so much strain and stress on us as builders. It really does. It can weigh heavy on our minds. I don't think we get into this business because we want to just clock on and clock off. I think for the most part, we're ingrained as blue collar operators to do our utmost to make as much money as we can. And I think that is almost like at the core of the challenge or the problem, is because we start out with great intentions, and then we find ourselves, really getting tied up in all kinds of messes if we don't build the business in a solid and secure manner. I think, with that in mind, and, having chatted to general contractors on the fly, some of my own guys in the Smith & Sons group, it becomes apparent that some guys really push hard to go big or go home. But for whatever reason, things don't work out the way they'd planned it, ironically enough. What I know is that the thing that we cannot control is humans. And so it's really imperative that we think about the development of the business. But today, what I want to focus on, especially for the young guys coming through, and I guess the foundation stone for this quick episode here, is that I did my apprenticeship with a builder, not with just a carpenter. Now, Phil was a carpenter by trade, for real. His old man was kind of a part-time builder, but Phil was a carpenter by trade. But I got the exposure to all different aspects of the build process as well as the trade. So I would spend time with all the different sorts. Any one of Phil's trades that needed a dog's body, I was the guy. And so I would work with the concreter, and we'd obviously work with, drots and equipment to prepare the lot or the block of land if you're in Australia and New Zealand perhaps. And so, right up to working, as obviously the carpentry side of it once the slab went down, and then of course, the finishing carpentry, but also working with bricklayers, and spending time with other trades and just seeing what went on. And that was super important, because the first job that I ever got, or the first project that I ever won, was an upstairs bathroom convert, walk-in robe to an ensuite, and basically half of upstairs I had to renovate. Now, that was my first job. So what I'm getting at today is, for the young fellas coming through, and even if you've been in the game 15, 20 years or whatever, I think there's a lot of satisfaction and peace that can come to you even if you're just a one-man band. And I say just a one-man band because sometimes we sort of overlook how satisfying that can be and how much reward can come out of doing a job from start to finish or go to woe. And so, today I'm going to quickly chat about or give you 5 tips for running a contracting business, as a one-man band. Before I get started, I want to talk to something real quick. Economy of scale. Now, the definition of economy of scale is a proportionate savings in cost gained by an increased level of production. Now, the number that I've heard in the industry is that you don't benefit from an economy of scale until you're a $10 million business. So for most of us guys and gals, hitting that $10 million mark is almost just off the planet. I know a lot of project builders that would do 10 million plus for sure, but you've really got to have a systemized approach to delivery. So what I see is that a lot of guys will go, okay, we've got good lead gen, we've got good inquiry coming in. What I need now is a project manager. I need a project consultant. I need an office admin. I need more tools and equipment. And yet to benefit from that level of investment, you can't just kind of double your revenue. And of course, then it comes down to, are you pricing the jobs right? Is there the appropriate amount of profit into those jobs? And so what I see happening is guys might go and triple or quadruple their revenue, but they will also quadruple and double they'll quadruple their costs. But what we find is that they actually make less money the bigger the business. Now, I'm not saying don't go big, but I'm just saying that you need to be understanding, you need to be aware that just because you do more revenue doesn't mean you make more money and you have a better life. I've seen it one too many times where guys will go and increase the team member count, they'll go and increase the revenue, and all of a sudden their profitability goes backwards. And so that to me is not successful. You would have been better off staying as a one-man band. Now, the other side of that coin also is your ability to manage, your capacity to lead. So what is your bandwidth? What is your emotional quotient? Not just your IQ, but your EQ, and how you handle yourself under pressure. What kind of leader are you? And a lot of the time we don't know that until it's too late. And so if you get 4 or 5 people and you've only had those for a short amount of time and they're all walking out the door, it's possibly because your leadership style or the way you treat them or, the way you let the stresses of the job or the business get to you and then you take it out on your staff or your team. That could be a lot of the reason why you're not an attractive person. You're actually a repellent type of a person. And so we want to be life-giving, not life-taking. So you don't want to go and put all this work into building a business and then be self-destructing because your lack of self-awareness as it relates to your leadership capacity and ability, that's what is bringing you down. And so, look, that is really an internal game, and I would encourage you to certainly build or really invest in yourself. And really, shortly I'm going to do an episode on the 4 levels of incompetence. And so what you've got is unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent, consciously competent, and unconsciously competent. So that'll twist your brain around a little bit, but you need to be aware of where your deficiencies are and where you need to improve, but conversely, you also need to understand where your strengths are and play to those as well. So, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly break down 5 aspects and give you 5 tips of what it takes. And this is not a crazy kind of, wow, Max, that's really revolutionary. It's really pretty basic, but it's all about the implementation of the information. So, running a contracting business, you can thrive. You can really, and I was just doing some numbers as I was driving to the office this morning, and I'm like, if I was to do a $100,000 project off the back of the markup percentages that we do on average, let's say that there was $30,000 worth of profit, gross profit in that project, that to me is about a 3-month project. If I could do 4 of those by myself per year, and I was actually working on the tools as a one-man band, and then I was running almost one job with a small overlap. So, that sort of project is probably to us as a 3-month project, 2 or 3 month project. If I could do 4 of those a year and I was doing 400,000, that means the business is showing a gross profit of $30,000 per project. That's about $120,000 a year. And if I was a carpenter doing the carpentry scope of work, I would actually be paying myself as a cost of goods sold and actually preserving that profit that's built into that contract. That wouldn't be a bad life, guys and girls. And so I need you to, and you might be just starting out and you'll go, wow, that sounds really good. And that's a pretty big hill to climb. But if you've been in the game for a while, like me, you might have been to bigger numbers than 400 grand a year, but maybe you've not been in the kind of numbers of 120 grand as a gross profit there. And so a gross profit percentage. So there might be some reconciliation that you're doing right now going, because I've seen guys, try to go to the top of the mountain, get halfway up and go, this is too much. And they've come back down to a one-man band situation. And so we're going to look at how you can thrive being a one-man band, but your mindset has got to be a little bit more controlled. Now, if you've kind of gone to the top of the mountain or you've tried to and it didn't work out and you've come back down, there's nothing wrong with going around again. You'll actually do it better this time, I would hope, because you've seen where you've failed and you might be able to implement different measures and methods to enable you to actually build the business better than what you did last time. Alternatively, if you're a new guy starting out, you need to be patient. And like I said, the first job that I did was, I don't know what it was, 45,000 or 60,000, but that was 20 years ago or more. That would have been 10 or 12, 13 years ago. And so, you need to embrace the learning process and just allow you to navigate your way through a few. And, the best thing about going back to small or starting small is that you build a very strong and close relationship with the clients. You're not really worried about overall revenue because you understand your limitations. But the powerful part about that is if you do have those good clients, you can then outsource to a video or videographer to get those video testimonials. And that's going to be a real big help when you start building the business on a greater and a bigger level. But okay, let's get through it. Here's 5 tips to help you succeed. Plan and prioritize. You've got to develop a clear business plan and set specific goals per year. Now, I just alluded to that. You might go, okay, I'll look at my pricing. I look at my markup percentages. To back that up, you've really got to make sure, that your marketing is on point. So you've got some level. You can't be out there just going, well, I'll spend $200 a month on a newspaper ad. Nothing wrong with that, and I think you should probably have that. But you're going to have to look at when you're talking about the digital world. You've obviously got Google AdWords, which is not cheap, but it's certainly, if you're going to be up there, you need to be doing that. You need to be doing something consistently because that's where you're going to develop your reputation. Brand reputation is everything. Just a side note, if you're looking at what content that you do on social media, it's all about storytelling. I'm not going to get into marketing right now, but it's all about storytelling. I have got a list. This is what my new initiative is going to be. So you might look into this as well. I've put together 50 questions that clients ask us, and I'm actually going to do videos to answer those questions in 1 to 2 minute, 3 minute videos. And then we're going to put them on our website and we're going to use those as content. Because what I'm not doing is asking for the business. What I'm doing is adding value to the client's world and helping them understand the ins and outs of the building process and pricing and things like that. So, developing a clear business plan, setting specific goals per year, knowing what you can deliver. What I see a lot of the time is when guys will go and win 3 or 4 projects, and then they all of a sudden, because of they're not got the right people, on their team, and they've got to replace those, which is difficult, or they're not the type of leader they need to be and they lose people, then they find themselves with 3, 4, 5 projects on the go and they are back to being a one-man band. So they've actually got a bigger building company's workload, but they are now one-man band. That's going to place a lot of pressure on you. So, you need to make sure that you prioritize your tasks and projects based on their importance and urgency. You've got to triage. So you've got to look at stage claims if you're doing fixed price contracts. That's what we do. We look at our stage claims. We look at deadlines as far as when the completion date is that imminent. That job will get priority because we've got to get it out and get it done. Anywhere that we need to get through the certain projects because we've had maybe delays on projects, we need to prioritize that job as well because clients maybe aren't happy with us. So you've always got to be, you've really got to be aware of the dynamics within your business to make it work. So planning and prioritization is a big deal. Point number 2, build a strong network. Okay, for me, when I moved to this country, immediately I got in touch with my wife's family, who I knew was in construction. I needed to get to know them and meet them. So what I was doing is I come into a brand new town with no contacts, and I would sit down with some of my wife's family who was in construction, And they didn't have the business that I wanted or anything like that, but they did have some local knowledge, and I wanted to sort of get recommendations from them. And I've got text messages, that I'd send to one of my wife's cousins going, hey, who do you use for an architect, or who do you recommend to do drywall or paint? And so that was how I was starting to develop my own network, and it was important because I needed to build a strong network, because I knew without a good network that I was going to get caught short, and I basically didn't have the ability to then finish projects on time and all that sort of stuff. So building a strong network, establish connections with suppliers, subs, and industry professionals. Trade shows are a good part of that. Joining professional associations, like for us, it's Canadian Home Builders. If you're in Australia, Master Builders, the Home Industry Association, or HIA is a good place. And then you can participate in local events. Chamber of Commerce might be a good thing for you. I've never attended one of those personally, but certainly have got involved in home shows and professional associations. That's ones that I would recommend. Point number 3, you've got to manage your time effectively. It's crucial when you're running your own business. You've really got to create, a schedule and allocate time. So when we're talking about a one-man band, you are going to have to do meetings of an afternoon/evening and on a Saturday morning up to maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? That's going to be the time when clients are most available to meet you. You've then got to be able to look at, if you are on the tools and you do put a bag on, or you do, do some of that work, you need to say, look, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because Monday's always firefight day. There's always shit going, sideways that you need to organize. So I would allocate Tuesday and Wednesday as your office days, perhaps, or maybe it's just a Tuesday, or maybe it's Wednesday and Thursday. I would tend to just, things when you're trying to wrap up jobs, Friday's a big day. And so to me, the window of opportunity is the Tuesday. Things seem to flatten out. And so, but some weeks you might spend 17 days for that week on the job, but you've got to get a couple of office days. And usually for me, one day in the office does not work because my head's still all over the place. It takes me a day to get my, poop in a group. 2 days is generally where I'll definitely have a really good second day. So the first day would be about, because on Monday, I'm sort of thinking about what's going on site. And then in the afternoon, I'm sort of starting to think about perhaps what I need to get to, sales, ordering and scheduling and things like that. So I'll sort of get a bit of a framework in my head on Monday for Tuesday. Tuesday will get some definition, but Wednesday I'll nail everything down. So don't waste those days. If you're going to take yourself off of a job site, and put your bum in the seat in the office, you need to make sure you're getting all your sales calls done. And this is what I do, is I would group it. Okay, what am I doing for sales? That is the priority. What calls do I need to make? What meetings do I need to book? Usually I would be booking those for the next week. You may be wanting to book those for the Friday afternoon or an afternoon that week and the weekend, sure, but always be booking in advance. And for crying out loud, run a Google Calendar, because it's the easiest tool to use, where every time someone says to me, hey, let's catch up for a beer, I kind of will put that in my calendar, because it saves me having to use my mental energy to remember that shit. And so what you want to do is then on Wednesday, you really want to double down and make sure once you've got sales sorted out and you've made phone calls, emails, follow-ups, you then want to start getting down to new estimates that you might be doing, or some design and plan or design and quote stuff you're doing. And then you might have some contract administration for jobs coming through. So you really need to be very articulate in your approach. You cannot just, spray it and hopefully it works out. You've got to be extremely calculated. No different if I was going to go and build a brand new house, that it's built from the ground up. There's an order. You've got to maintain order in your life as a contractor or a construction operative. You need to maintain order. And so you've got a bunch of plates spinning on sticks, and it's up to you to ensure that none of those plates hit the ground. And part of that is to definitely manage your time effectively. Point number 4. Deliver exceptional customer service. Now, if you're a one-man band, you should be able to do this at the highest level, because the demand placed on you, because if you're doing one job at a time, and like I said at the start, you might only do $400,000 worth of revenue because you've got 4 $100,000 jobs that create $120,000 in total profit for that year. On top of your cost of goods sold, because you might have allocated a project management amount. Certainly if you're a carpenter, you've done all the demo, framing, you might even do the drywall installation and have a mudder taper or a setter come in and do the mud and tape. and then you might do all the finishing and based on hang doors and trim and baseboard or skirting, as we'd say in Australia. And then, of course, you do all the finishing and really wrap that job up. There's a lot of your time that you should have allocated or allowed for in the estimate or in your project budget to allow you to be able to do that and preserve the profit. Profit is like the little baby. You need to look after that thing. It won't look after itself. I've had 6 of them, and that's kind of how it works. So profit is very much like that newborn, and we have got to protect and preserve that profitability. So we want to be super, focused on delivering the project. Now, the customer is looking for an experience that is different from what they've heard. We don't need no horror stories. It's impossible to get a video testimonial from a client if they've had a horror show. And so we might have done a great job in the design and quote phase. The sales process was awesome. And then you get to construction and your delivery is pathetic. Now, just look, you're going to let yourself down savage. So delivery has to be at the highest level. I've seen too many guys get focused on the money and disrespect the client. I know clients are going to come to you mid-construction. They're going to want to change things. So you've got to have your change order process organized and ready to go. You've got to make sure that you're controlled in that environment, that if you do get an authorized change order, that you get a large part of that amount paid up front, if not the whole amount prior to ordering and things like that, because it interrupts your program. But you've just got to understand that it's up to you, the builder, to absorb the idiosyncrasies of the client. You must take the higher ground without giving up the profit. Now, in some cases, you might do a few things for free, make sure that goes into a change order. But what we're trying to do is not just be subservient to the client, but we have got to make sure that when they sit down to dine at our contracting restaurant, that they enjoy every part about the experience. And so it's really important that you focus on delivering outstanding customer service. You want to exceed the expectations. You want to build strong relationships with your clients. They say happy wife, happy life. I'm like, what about happy spouse, happy house? But certainly happy clients can become valuable sources of referrals for future projects. Now, make no mistake, if people don't want to go on video to tell your potential clients about their experience working with you, certainly getting something in writing, maybe even an audio would be better than a video. But certainly you've got to leverage off technology and do something different to your competitors. If you look at all your competitors in your area and they've all got written reviews, you need to step up your game, deliver really well to the clients, and then ask them if they wouldn't mind sharing their experience and maybe helping out some of our prospective customers. That's how I put it when I'm talking to our clients about that video testimonial. Number 5, fifth and last, invest in technology and tools. So goes without saying, tools will give you leverage. Leverage gives you lifestyle. And so, I think we need to really focus on the right kind of tools. And there's really 2 parts to this. There's the software part, and then there's your quality tools and equipment. There's some cases there'll be tools that I don't use a lot, like a laminate trimmer perhaps. And it's not exactly top of the line. It's not the Rolls Royce because it doesn't get pulled out very often, a couple of times a year at best or whatever. But, when you're talking about drop saws or chop saws, you sort of start thinking about spending some decent money because that's a tool that you would use literally almost every day, if not every other day. So leveraging technology to streamline your operations, super important. That'll enhance your efficiency. You've got to use technology, project management tools, accounting tools, scheduling, apps or tools are super important to help you stay organized and manage your projects effectively. And of course, you can, we always like to buy nice polished new tools because that makes us feel good. So, running that one-man contracting business, it just requires a lot of dedication on your part. You've got to be fairly resourceful and innovative, and you've got to persevere because it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen to you eventually. So I think what you're working on as a one-man band, and focus on this, is that you want to work on your technique and then your speed will come. And so what you'll find is that as you understand the process in intricate detail, two things will happen. Is one, it'll help you in your estimating prowess. In other words, your capability as an estimator, putting the next budget together, because you're really intimately involved with the construction process. So you're looking for gaps as you build it. You'll actually refer back to your estimate and go, I didn't think about that. So this is your learning curve, right? So you're investing in yourself. You want to work on the technique, and then the speed will come over time. And with careful planning and implementation of these kind of tips and other things, you can increase your chances of success tenfold. So focus on those things and really be implementing the information. And always be looking to improve on the fly as well. And don't be afraid to send yourself an email. Here's my closing tip, one on the side. Don't be afraid to send yourself an email and in the subject line, put there advice or pointer or cock up or whatever it takes, but always use that same thing so you can actually file that email when you get back to the office or when you've got time. And you might make yourself an email that says, I overlooked the carpentry finishing because I didn't think this had to happen, or something like that. And you can then you can actually be building your own journal of oversights. Maybe that's it. In the subject line, put oversights, : and then quickly go, as it relates to Tyler, or as it relates to painter, or maybe it's like we've noted recently that in some of the bigger renos, we should actually request that the client rent, or we rent on their behalf, and we charge them as part of the package a 20-foot container to sit in their front yard, and 3 guys to hump all of their personal belongings into that sea can, because we had a job recently where we were moving stuff from bedrooms to living room. We'd renovate that, and then we'd have to move it from living room to garage, and then we could renovate that, and because we finished that, we could move it back. Like, it was a pain in the ass. And so what we decided is that next time going forward, and here it is, oversight, sea can or container in the front yard for clients to move all their personal belongings through. That way we have a clean slate of the project. Now, some of you might do that, but it's just an example of what one of my guys come across just recently. So hope that helps, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe, comment below. I'll get that in my inbox, and I'll hit you back on YouTube if you're making a comment there. But certainly head across to businessforbuilders.ca. If you've got any questions, hit me up there in the contact form. That'll end up in my inbox as well. Be sure to head across to Business for Builders VIP Facebook group. That's a private group there that we're trying to build a community. So lots of collaboration and camaraderie there, and a lot of questions getting answered. Head across there if you're a good sort. I'll let you join. And certainly don't be afraid to email me at max@businessforbuilders.ca. Have a great day. Have a great week. Build a profitable business. Build a kick-ass business. See you in the next episode. Cheers.